Hi everyone. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon,
Can I
sir.
be heard?
Hi po, Doc. Good
Hello po.
afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. So, maraming salamat po sa nag-introduce sa atin. So, maraming salamat po again sa Disease Prevention and Control Bureau for inviting me here to speak and share my insights and experience, no, in helping build research capabilities, no, of the bureau. No, I am humbled because to begin with, I'm a simple nurse, no, but I'm not in the front lines. But pero po, we're developing and training frontliners. Okay, so I would like to start my presentation with a short question. So please allow me to share my screen. Okay, so I would like to present my screen. Nakikita po ba? Right, so
Yes
gusto
po,
ko po
Doc.
muna po kayo, gusto ko po kayong kamustahin muna bago tayo magsimula para at least magkapalagayang loob po tayo at ano. So I would like you to go to menti.com, the instruction here, and enter the code on this one. So type in there, how are you? Lagay nyo lang po kung ano yung nararamdaman nyo. So para makita ko po natin kung ano po ang inyong palagay, no? At pakiramdam ngayong araw. Yun, excited. Okay. So huwag po kayong mag-alala. No? Anonymous po yung mga sagot ninyo. Lalabas lang po siya as words. No? Yun, happy o may stress. And then may tired. Okay. May curious, yes, that's good. At may excited, magandang combination. May blessed din. So may excited na. And may enthusiastic, that's good to learn, to know. May eager to learn. O good thing, may busog po, no? Maraming salamat at nabusog naman siya. Bago tayo mag-start, no? Tired but fulfilled, that's good. Mabuti. Okay. Sige. So looking into our word cloud of feelings, of word cloud of how are you, no? It's good to know po na may optimistic din, no? That despite this pandemic, no, we're blessed and we're given opportunities, no, to learn and to further our skills, okay, in our work, no, and in our topic later on. Okay, so maraming salamat po sa mga nag-input ng kanilang feelings ngayong araw, no. So okay na po ba? Mayroon pang umahabol. O yun ang maganda, may fighting. Mayroong thankful, neutral lang. Okay. Oh no, may angry, no. I hope I hope that person may be alleviated of his anger, no. Okay. Sige po, may busy rin. All right. So I'll try to look into this, consider these feelings and direct our discussion, no. All right. So for today, I was asked to discuss something about research, no, and analysis about, and we titled this as Research and Analysis Simplified. Okay, so I'll present my slide. Nakikita po ba? So in this particular, all right, thank you. So in this particular topic, we will be having it in two parts. No? As I was informed, we try to focus our discussion on developing our research agenda and how to write workable proposals. No? So we will try to cover some basic concepts, recalling some concepts that we have before, and also something new, no, and something relatable, no, during the discussion. So that's only for this for today's session. But for the next week, no, we will tackle about writing the proposal itself, no, and even the ethical considerations that we have in writing your research proposal. All right. Now, let's have a recall of your concepts. When we say research, no, if you will look into the word itself, it's actually a combination, no, may prefix na re at merong na which means again or uulitin, then search, no, to search again. Okay? So, therefore, research in the basic or in the most common concept is to search again. Okay? So my question is, lahat po ba tayo nagre-research? Actually, we did a small scale research kanina when we start our discussion. When I asked you how are you feeling, no, I did a small research so that I would know, no, what will happen or what are the feelings of my attendees, no. So during this time, I did a research, I gathered data, and learned about you, no. So we all do research in our everyday lives. Okay? Minsan tinatanong natin, saan ba tayo kakain ng lunch? No? Where do we have lunch? Or sometimes, kung gusto natin bumili ng phone, which cell phone model should I buy? No? Which can I afford? No? Which I want? Ano ba yung gusto kong model? No? Gusto ko ba ng Apple? Gusto ko ba ng Android or Samsung or whatsoever? You're doing, in a sense, an everyday research. That is a way to answer your questions. No? You answer your questions by gathering data. Okay? And you arrive at a conclusion based on what data that you have. No? Kung anong data or datos meron po kayo. Now, since this is a health organization, I presume that you're doing healthcare research, no? Now, everyday research is actually similar, all right? Broadly similar to healthcare research, but they differ in formality. So if we are struggling, no, with research, no, kasi more often than not, many people will yung kumbaga ay matitigalgal ba, yung parang nagkakaroon ng agam-agam sa sarili. Pag sinabing, mag-research ka, okay? They felt that it's they're facing a bigger, a big stumbling block when they are said that you do research, no? Well, in fact, you're doing it every day of your life, no? Nagkaiba lang kasi yung healthcare research na gagawin natin is more formal. Okay? More formal in a sense that it is systematic. All right? Systematic in inquiry, no? Which you use disciplined methods to answer your questions or to solve your problems. No? So you use the scientific method to find out, no, what's the answer for your particular research question. It's more formal because it's designed to develop knowledge, no, about issues and that are of great importance, no, to healthcare practice. Right? So we try to develop research, no, in the healthcare setting that would impact, no, our the health setting itself, no. Lalo ngayon that we are facing we're facing a pandemic, no? We're still in the middle of a surge, no? Dapat we try to relate some problems that would impact, no, the very issues that we are facing right now. So in that way, we try to arrive into a more meaningful research and a more applicable findings, no, that will benefit our people. Okay? I'll go to my next slide. Now, it's important also that we build research in healthcare because it's a way, no, to develop, your evidences that are needed to improve practice, not only for the doctors, not only for the nurses, but in healthcare setting in general. Okay, because evidences are needed to help improve the practice, no? To help improve the practice of healthcare professionals. So it's we try to develop our evidence-based practice or the process of decision making between practitioners, patients, significant others, based on the best research evidence, expertise, and patient healthcare preference. We do research in healthcare also by providing, also to improve our professional credibility and accountability. Okay, in this way we develop our competence and our ability, no, to respond to the needs of our constituents or of our patients, of our clients. No, it's also a way to help us improve cost effectiveness of our healthcare outcomes. Okay, and it's also a way, no, to do or to arrive to cost containment. All right, and it's also a way for us to document what we are doing, kung ano po yung ginagawa natin. So those are some of the importance, the major importance of doing research in healthcare. Now that we have our basic recall, no, of our concepts in research, now the next question would be, what do we want to research? Okay, this is a common stumbling block for researchers, no, for researchers kahit na baguhan and minsan kahit experience. It's a stumbling block also, no, on deciding what do you want to research. Okay, so a good starting point would be first to develop your own research agenda. Okay, now research agenda in the general sense, no, is a statement of your research interest, kung saan kayo interesadong mag-research. Okay, it can be a personal research agenda, meaning it's your own preference, it's your own wants, it's your own direction that you want to pursue. Or in the more general sense na, it can be a group or an organizational research agenda. Okay, the one that's maybe on a national level being identified to direct the research efforts of the researchers, no? So that's what in a sense is your research agenda. It's a statement of your interest. Okay, so what you can do to develop your research agenda is to map out the research area that you want to explore, no, and study that you want to be conducted within that area. All right. Okay, now research agenda in a sense is important because it gives you a clear framework, no, for making decisions about future research activities. So with the research agenda, you know what type of research you want, what type of research you need to perform or to conduct, no, and what research would be meaningful for a group of people that you're intending to apply the research findings. No? So in this way, you try to identify kung ano yung dapat na i-research para dun sa mga taong i-applyan mo na ang research. Now, here's an example, no, of a research agenda, and I think this might be familiar to you, the National Unified Health Research Agenda. Now, the NURA, which is for the year 2017 to 2022, identified 6 major research themes, no? Which is mainly about responsiveness to responsive health systems, no? About research to enhance and extend healthy lives. Third is to have a holistic approach to health and wellness. They want also to have or to focus the research in topics about health resiliency or about global competitiveness and innovation in health, and more on research in equity and health. No? So these particular types of research themes correspond to research areas and description to guide the research in determining the kinds of research that may fall under a specific theme. So a research agenda is something like this. It gives you a general idea, a general direction of what you want to research or what you need to research. No? A research agenda may be inspired, by a national research agenda. No? And through this, we can direct our work towards achieving this set of research agenda. Okay? This can serve as an inspiration for your organization as well on identifying what research you need to do, what research needs to be done, and what research will be beneficial for the people, for the Filipino people, or for the Philippines. Okay. Another type of or another research agenda that we may want to look into. So sige, mamaya na yung second type of agenda. Now, if you will look in the development process, of the development process of the NURA, if you will look into the agenda setting of it, you will see that there are several factors that they try to consider when setting the agenda of the National Unified Health Research Agenda. And samples of these are your societal predisposition, which are the national and local research contexts. They took into consideration the problem stream, the issues that needs to be resolved, the needs that they want to do, or the needs that they identified, and even the gaps. They also took into consideration the policy stream, technical, feasibility, knowledge, solutions, and even the political stream and intervening variables. So these are some of the factors that describe how they may arrive sa agenda setting ng NURA. So if we will take lesson into this process, we can also develop our own agenda. We can develop also our own personal agenda. We can see some societal problems that we encounter every day. We can see also sometimes the common, kung tayo ay sa disease prevention, we can also see issues that are really affecting around the people, affecting the people around us. We can also see some trends in lifestyle ng mga kasama natin sa bahay, and that can influence us in developing our research agenda and henceforth our research problem. So taking lesson into this one, we can now develop our own agenda, and help us develop our problem setting and therefore our research design in the future. Another type of agenda that's also available at the national level is the one published by by DOH-D, the Harmonized National Research and Development Agenda, or the HNRDA, okay, which lists down the priority areas and programs for research and development. So if we are looking into our own scope or line of work, our research agenda should fall into this section, no? Our health, since we are working in the healthcare setting, we might want to focus our research on drug discovery and development, diagnostics, functional foods, no? Hospital equipment and biomedical devices, information and communication technology for health, dengue, nutrition and food safety, disaster risk reduction, no, in terms of health, climate change and adaptation in terms of health, and omic technology for health. No? Right now, our situation with COVID also urges us, no, to include in our research and development agenda the solution for COVID. Right? As sobrang urgent ng COVID sa ating healthcare setting, nagkakaroon na tayo ng term na COVIDization, no? COVIDization of healthcare research. It means that dumadami or lahat ng research topics, no? Lahat ng research topics pumupunta na lang palagi sa COVID. So for example, no, I noticed this among my students, okay, in the undergraduate, because I'm also teaching research. When they formulate their problem, it is always about, no, amidst the pandemic, amidst COVID-19, amidst the pandemic or online learning, no? So napo-focus sa COVID yung mga research problems and research agenda. So therefore the research problem setting tends to focus, no, to the COVID topic, to the COVID agenda. Well, we cannot blame our society because COVID has affected millions of lives, no, and thousands of people have died, no, here in the Philippines. So we cannot blame, no, such development and with our research setting. Okay. So yun lang, no. My takeaway on that is that we do not want to limit ourselves only to COVID, but also look into these issues, no, or areas and programs for R&D or for research and development. Okay. Now, when you have established your research agenda, your research interest, and you come up with a research topic that you want to study, the next thing to do is, how do we sustain this? Okay, how do we sustain our research startup? Because we're starting up with our research, how do we sustain it? How do we do it? How do we keep motivated upon it? No, we ask ourselves these 4 questions. No, we always ask ourselves these 4 questions. First, no, is our topic or our question or our agenda significant? Okay, meaning when you say significant, your topic will have a meaningful impact to the constituents, no, or to the people that you want to apply your research findings. That's number 1. You also try to look if this problem, when researched, no, will actually aid those people, no, who really need that research finding. Okay, so you have to examine whether your research problem, topic, or agenda will actually help the people, will actually be meaningful to them, so that it's more worth doing, worth funding, no, and worth implementing. Right? So that's number 1. Significant ba ito? Pangalawa, you ask yourself, is this researchable? Okay? Sometimes kasi we have research questions or we develop research questions that that cannot be actually a topic of research. Okay? Like for example, what is your point of view, or what is your opinion? What is your view, no, on the legalization of assisted suicide, no? So if you're going to ask that question is not actually researchable because you're not going to get facts from it, but rather you'll get opinion. So that particular question is not researchable because it will only elicit opinion. No right and wrong answer, only points of view. So you have to examine your paper, no? You have to examine your question. Is it researchable? Okay? A good way to reword this question, yung what is your view on patient-assisted suicide, is to ask or reword it in such a way that you're asking about the perception of doctors, of nurses to assisted suicide. Because in that way, you will try to get the perceptions, you try to get the respective opinion, and then sematize it. So ibig sabihin, masasummarize mo siya into themes that might be occurring commonly among all people or among the healthcare providers that you asked. So that's one, no? Researchable ba siya? In such a way na masasagot ba yung sagot na makukuha mo hindi lang basta opinion. Kung hindi mga facts, no? Na pwede mong mapulot doon sa research data gathering mo. Okay? So that's number 2. No? Researchable ba yan? The third one is ask yourself, is it feasible? No? Magagawa ba siya? Right? So when you try to say feasible, you try to consider the time and timing. No? When we say time and timing, the availability of your time to do your research. Okay? Let's not deny it. Time is the most important resource that we have. Hindi lang sa research, sa lahat ng bagay. No? Kaya sabi nyo kanina, you're busy because your time is limited. No? Your time is limited and that's very valuable for you. No? So ganun din po sa research. No? Always remember that your time and the time that you have to do research is also important. Let's say, for example, you proposed a research, and yet, no, your research would entail 10 years to take, no, 10 years to do or to complete, right? So the time and timing of that particular research might not be, the time that you do the research may not be enough kasi may deadline ka, for example, to finish your research in 1 year. So X ka na agad doon sa time. And plus, the timing or yung relevance ng research na gagawin mo, baka after 10 years hindi na siya relevant, no? Kasi sobrang tagal mo bago makumpleto, hindi mo na i-apply kasi because of the extended time that you have or the extended time that you spent completing the research, no? The time and timing, okay? Another is the availability of participants. Meron ka bang sasagot? Meron bang participants? Or meron ba kayong mga samples? Or meron ba kayong mga subjects? Mga tao na may interview para makuha na ng data? So you have to consider it also. No? Kung meron bang available na participants para ba makumpleto ninyo yung research ninyo. Third, cooperation of others. When we say cooperation of others, not just only your team, but also the people who will be involved in your research. Mapa-subject, mapa-institution na pupuntahan ninyo or pagkokondakan ninyo ng research, at also yung mga tao na might contribute, no, to the completion of your research project, no? Let me share an example. No, I have a friend who's doing a research. No, she's doing actually her dissertation. She did not complete her dissertation on time. No, yung research niya, because the people that were na gusto niyang kunan ng data were not allowing her, no, to look into their files. So the cooperation of the responding school, no, yung responding person, hindi assured. So yung data na kailangan niya para makumpleto yung research, hindi naman niya makumpleto or hindi nakikipag-cooperate. So the research is not completed. Next, we also consider the facilities and equipment, the money, no? The money, the experience of researchers, no? So in this particular aspect, no, it's good that we mix, no? We mix the composition of our team. No? It's not advisable, no, to team up all new researchers, no, yung mga wala pa masyadong experience in one team, no. It's good that we mix, no, we mix the capabilities, no, of these researchers, okay, so that there's a transfer, no, there's a transfer of competency, there's a transfer of experience, no, para magtuloy-tuloy or mag-sustain yung research na drive or research capability ng grupo, no, in the future. Right? And also, when you try to examine the feasibility of your research topic or research title or research agenda, always try to make sure or consider also yung ethical considerations. Are there any ethical principles that will be violated? Are there people who would be harmed in my research? No? So you examine it that way. Okay? So examine it also. So I think next week we will be discussing the different ethical principles, no, in doing research. And we will have a thorough discussion on that one next week. Okay? And lastly, to help you sustain your research startup, ito talaga yon, it should be interesting. No? It should be interesting to you as the researcher. Okay? Kasi it's difficult, no? It's difficult to push ourselves to do something that we do not want. Kung hindi po ninyo gusto yung research, kung hindi niyo po gusto ang yung title ninyo, yung topic ninyo, eh talagang hindi po magpupush yan, hindi po makukumpleto yan, no? Well, making your subject, making your research interesting will also come in the forms of external motivators. Ano-ano yung mga yon, no? Nandyan po yung incentivizing your research projects, no? Giving incentives, okay? Ayan, since we're talking about incentives, right? I'll ask you another question again, no? So let's go to another. Yan. Another question po para sa body, no? This time I will ask you, what are your common difficulties that in sustaining your research interest? Sige nga, I just want to get it from you. No, don't worry. Your responses are anonymous. So feel free to write it down here. No, it's also a good way, a learning experience, no, for all of us, no, para malaman natin kung ano ba talaga yung tumitigil sa atin or parang nagiging barrier natin in doing our research, no? And when it comes to interest. Okay, so let's ask the group. Punta po ulit kayo sa menti.com. Enter nyo lang po itong code. Okay. So, ayan po, no, may nagsabi lack of literature. Okay, I understand that. And workload, yes, because workforce support, workload, funding also is lack of workforce or workload. Medyo mabigat ka naman kasi talaga mag-research, no? And it's how do I say this? Research is actually an extra workload, no? aminin na po natin, extra workload po ang research unless you are really tasked to do that. Okay? Well, I'm speaking of in the academy. I don't know if it's the case, no, with your organization, no. Yan. Okay, so it requires too much time, lack of resources, lack of literature, etc., and the likes. Okay, so Ma'am Hazel, no, maybe you could take a picture of this one so that you have a picture, no, kung ano yung mga kailangang i-resolve na issues, no, that may help you improve as well yung kanilang research capability, no? Correct, no? I agree with funding, no? I agree with funding because minsan gusto mo talaga mag-research, but then there's no way to incentivize you. There's no way to fund your research, no? And there's no way to make, no, your research running because walang funding. Okay? So, or kulang yung funding. So that's, I agree with that. So we need to address that as well. Okay? Willingness also is one. Okay? Unfamiliar topic, lack of literature, etc. Okay? So thank you so much everyone, no, for sharing your thoughts on this one. Well, actually, I did a research again, or I did a literature review, and it says that your feelings are true enough. Totoo naman po yan. No? There are research barriers that were identified in several studies. No? There were I cited two studies. No? The one that's conducted in Mazandaran University of Medical Sciences. I think this is in the Middle East. And the other one is also the barriers to research activities from the perspective of the students. No? Kahit na sabihin nating students ito at experts ito, nandito naman din lahat. All of their findings resonate, no, to what we are feeling. So ano-ano daw po ba yung mga research barriers na iyon? Number one is personal type of barrier. Yan, diyan pumapasok yung lack of knowledge, no, inadequate time, kulang lots of work, and lack of incentive. No, I'll be honest, no. Research in most organizations is extra work, no? Siguro nasasabi ko to kasi I'm coming in the academic setup, no? It's an extra part of your job, right? It's an extra part. So we should address this as in matters that will help these people really do their work. No, some strategies include may ibang strategies na ginagawa. Ang ginagawa nila, dinedeload nila yung mga tao. Binabawasan ng workload, tapos para makapag-alat ng oras para sa research. Okay? So in that way, they have less time, no, in their work and more time to dedicate to research. Another is lack of incentive, no? Sabi nila lack of incentive. I learned that the lack of incentive kasi madalas ang research ay ini-incentivize so that people will be motivated to do research. Incentive in the form of grants, no, funding, and the likes, no? Kasi mahirap mag-research ng walang pondo, no? Extra work na nga, sarili mo pang pera yung ginagamit mo. So that's not enticing to do research at all, no? So it's also another way to, one of the solutions that I encountered is I saw in I think in DOH-D, they have this scientific career track, no? They have this scientific career track wherein they have may ranking sila for those ranking specific for researchers talaga, no? So the researchers, no, yung rank nila have higher salary grades, no? They have higher salary grades, no, so that these people will be dedicated to do research, no? So iba siya doon sa rank and file na ranking or whatsoever, no? So yun, that's That's one way to, or those are some solutions that we can provide, no, to help overcome these barriers, no. Well, lack of knowledge and information will always be can always be resolved by trainings, by seminars, by workshops, no. But then it has to be continuous. It has to be repetitive minsan, no? Kasi minsan nalilimutan ng tao, minsan hindi kayang gawin, no, ng isang upo lang, something like that. So it has to be repetitive. It has to be repeated and followed up, no? Next will be organizational barriers, no? Yan, dito napapasok yung support sa empleyado. Okay? Inadequate consultant and library services. Insufficient facilities for sampling, poor access samples, and methods of doing research. And not enough cooperation of the colleagues. No? Poor facilities and counseling were also identified as organizational barriers. No? So those are some of the barriers, no, that may be resolved, no, by the administration or by the organization itself. Also, papasok din yung socio-cultural aspects, no. Sometimes the research may not be culturally acceptable doon sa researcher, no. Let's say, for example, we try to assign one research topic that might not be acceptable to the cultural beliefs, no, of a person. Okay, that may cause conflict and that may cause stasis, no, in the progress of the research project. Another barrier is yung tinatawag na economical aspect. This pertains to the financing, the funding, and the resources that may be needed, no, to make our research move. So, what's the key point, and what is my point here when I discuss these barriers? It's one way, no, to resolve or to identify kung saan ba tayo nahihirapan. And by identifying this, by recognizing these factors, we can move forward by addressing these solutions or this with solutions. Okay. Now, here are some recommended steps, no, in developing your research. Okay. First is to undergo your conceptual phase. No? In the conceptual phase, dito kayo gagawa ng problem. No? I-delimit nyo na yung problem ninyo. So, doon sa research agenda na na-identify ninyo, sa research agenda na natukoy ninyo, you will formulate and delimit the problem that you have or that you want to study. No? That you want to study. Tapos, during the conceptual phase, dito rin kayo dito nyo rin aalamin, no, kung ano ba yung dapat alamin tungkol sa problem. So you do your review of related literature. Magbabasa kayo ng researches, no? Magbabasa kayo ng mga findings, no? Publications, news, etc. Okay? I am saying that you do not limit your review of related literature only to researches that are found online. No, yung mga journals. Don't limit yourselves there because ang research natin will involve the Filipino people, no? Or the Filipino Filipino people, the Philippines, no? We must try, no, to focus to widen, no, our literature review, not just only to research, but also, no, to what's happening around us. So pwede kayong mag-cite ng news or whatsoever para lang mas maging contextualized yung problem na gusto mong solusyonan, yung gusto mong i-research. Okay? So review the related literature. Next is to undertake clinical field work, no? I would like to restate this. We need to undertake field work, no? Just to get the feel, no, of kung totoo bang nangyayari yung problem na in-identify natin. No? Makikita niyo yan sa pag-observe ninyo, no, kapag kayo ay nasa field, observing the news around us, observing what's happening around us. So doon pumapasok yun, no, yung field work. It's important because it's one way to verify that your problem is really a problem. Okay? And next is to define your framework and develop your conceptual definition, no? To make meaning, to understand ano ba yung ginagawa niyo. Next is to formulate your hypothesis. Now, not all researches that we will do will always involve hypotheses, no? So later I'll explain what are those researches, no, that will require us to formulate hypotheses. So after that, after we do our conceptual phase, we now go to your design and planning phase. Okay? So dito na tayo pipili ng research design, kung paano natin gagawin or ma-achieve ang data. Pangalawa, dito papasok tayo ng developing protocols for intervention, no? If we intend to do experimental researches, ito 'yon, sa developing protocols for intervention. Third is to identify the population to be studied and design the sampling plan, okay? And specify the methods to measure your variables, no? And develop methods to protect human and animal rights. Yan ang magiging research natin. And to finalize and review the research plan, no? Dito, I suppose, no, may third body na magre-review ng inyong research plan, no? It's like a proposal defense ng mga estudyante ko, no? I-examinin kung meron pa dapat na ayusin, no, doon sa design ng inyong research. Research proposal stops at this second stage, no? Kasi yung susunod na mga phases, yung empirical phase, analytic, dissemination, ito na yung kapag nakumpleto mo na or magsa-start ka ng mag-implement ng research, no? When you start collecting your data, when you start or when you prepare your data for analysis, no, and you analyze it and interpret it, no, you are actually completing the research itself. So yung proposal, like this, nag-e-end siya dito sa part na to. Sa actual research na talaga mismo, when you do it, you are doing the empirical phase, the analytic phase, no? And when you communicate your findings, no, you write it down, sinulat nyo na siya, pinapublish nyo na, that's your dissemination phase. Okay? Now, when you write your research proposal, no, I think in college we try to write our own thesis, no. In college, no, in the school, in the academe, no, we ask our students to write their research using the Germanic model of thesis writing, no. In Germanic model, yun yung patapalan ng research, no. Yung research proposal, nagko-compose yan ng preliminary pages, yung proposal body, and the supplementary pages, no. Diyan mo makita yung title page, acknowledgement, no, table of contents, no, working summary, no, meron yan. Nandun sa Germanic model yan, no. Tapos saka lang susulat ng chapter 1, introduction. Tapos ang dami-dami pang subheading kada content, no? Yung introduction, meron ba diyang background of the study, statement of the problem, research objectives, significance of the study, no? Scope and delimitation, etc., etc. Ganun din sa RRL, marami ring yang sanga-sanga at dating sa methodology. Tapos pagdating sa supplementary pages, nandun yung mga bibliography, yung references, and as well as the appendix. No? So the Germanic model is a way to, ito yung ginagamit sa academe, usually ginagamit sa academe. Kasi we want our students at the undergraduate level to understand the contents, no, of writing the research, the nitty-gritty, yung pinaka-essence, yung pinaka-konsepto ng paggawa ng research. Pero syempre, sa inyo, iba nang usapin yan. Dahil kayo ay mga marurunong na sa research, no? At graduate na, no? We use the new model, no? The IMRAD model. Okay, IMRAD stands for, it's actually an abbreviation. IMRAD stands for introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Now, you can write your proposals in IMRAD format, no? Or depending on the format of the institution that you are in, no? You can use that format. Okay? Pero sa IMRAD pagsusulat ng inyong proposal, ang kailangan lang po namin yung inyong introduction. An introduction that will give context to your study, no? An introduction that will problematize the problem, no? Bakit ba siya problema? Okay? Tapos saka mo siya isusulat yung statement of the problem. If you will look in published researches, yung introduction nagko-contain din yan ng RRL, no? Review of Related Literature. Pwede naman yon. Okay? Because your RRL is actually a contextualization of your introduction and your problem. No? Iniwalay lang siya dito sa Germanic model, pero yun din yun. Okay? Kapag nagsulat kayo ng introduction, lalagay nyo lang po dyan yung mga researches na relevant doon sa inyong study. No? Tapos, bibigyan nyo ng kahulugan. Bakit kailangan gawin itong research na to? Kasi hindi pa po nakikita yung ganitong findings based on literature. No? Something like that po. So once you have written your introduction, pwede nyo pong lagyan ng, the next part will be your methodologies. No? Kung paano nyo nagagawin yung research niyo. Dito napapasok yung research design, sampling, population, data collection methods, and the likes. No? So, a major content, no? A major factor that helps us proceed with our research is yung pag-identify ng tamang research, the sources of your research problems. Okay? Your research problems should be, can be sourced, no? From external sources. Yung nga, kanina yung sinabi nating research agenda. It can also be sourced from experience and fieldwork. Pwede ring published research, yung mga makikita nyo sa research na recommendations for future research. No? Pwede ninyong ipagpatuloy yon. No? Or that's called an extension research. No? Kung ano yung na-publish. Yun na nga, kanina pa natin binabanggit. Another source of research problem is yung social issues, mga nakita nyo sa paligid. Okay? And also theories. Alright? If you want to test the theory, fine, it's okay. But for us researchers, in the professional researchers, we want to try to focus our finding or our research that will address social issues, no? Or some external sources in research agenda. Okay? So how do we select our topic? No? How do we select our topic? Here's an example of a research topic, no? That you might relate to. So depression in cancer patients. Okay? So you want to research about this one. Now, if you try to refine it into a problem, okay, you try to make sure that you give context, no, on this research problem. Okay? So you try to make sense out of what you want to determine. Okay? By giving it population na makaka-affect or whatsoever, and the likes, no? Now, okay. Now, just a note lang, kapag kayo ay gumagawa ng research question or nagde-develop ng research question, you have to make sure that it's clear and simple, no? Huwag na masyadong paligoy-liguyin pa. Be direct, no? Because this is a scientific paper, we have to make sure it's direct and it's clear and it's simple. Next, it has to be interrogative form, no? Nagtatanong, and must include the variables that under the study that you want to study. Kung may dependent variable yan, independent variable, ilagay niyo po yan. And indicate the empirical data to be gathered. No? Kung ano ba yung data na i-gather. Always take note, no? Theoretical considerations, feasibility, and significance of your study. That should be apparent, no? Doon sa question ninyo. Or should reflect, no? Or should be considered in the formulation of your research. Now, if you word your question, always make sure that it involves the 4 major elements, no? PICO, ang abbreviation po namin dyan ay PICO, no? P stands for the population of interest. I stands for intervention or exposure, kung meron kayong ipag-experimentuhan. C for comparison or alternative intervention, and O for the outcome. So in this example, we try to develop our question na, is music, which is the intervention, more effective than acupressure, which is the comparison group, which is yung acupressure group, no? In reducing agitation, which is our outcome, in patients with dementia, no? So I'm not trying to mislead you na PICO dapat sunod-sunod yan. No. Okay. The PICO should this PICO should be present, no, in a good word, properly worded research question. Okay. So if you have now once you have your question na, your research question, it's time, no, to decide what research design would best answer this research question. So again, there are several research designs that we may want to consider. If your research will talk about or will explore a certain intervention, the effects of a certain intervention, then you might want to consider experimental research. No? Now, experimental research involves the inclusion of an intervention, no? An introduction of an intervention, and see how effective it is. No? It can be in the form of true experiment, meaning there's an element of randomization, no, and having a controlled group, no, or it can be a quasi-experiment. Kasi minsan hindi applicable ang true experiment, no. Minsan there's no people who are available for randomization. There are few respondents to involve in randomization as well, or random assignment, no. So true experiment might not be feasible. You might want to consider quasi-experiment, okay? Or even the simplest form, which is your pre-experimental designs, okay? Another type of research in the quantitative research domain will be your non-experimental researches. So when we talk of non-experimental researches, this can be descriptive, no, form, no, nagde-describe ka lang. These can be in the form of surveys, can be in the form of surveys or questionnaires, no. Sasagutin mo lang ng questionnaire yung tao, tapos wala ka namang i-correlate. That's your descriptive design. It can be correlational, no. When you say correlational, you compare two variables. For example, you want to answer, would weight be would our weight influence, no, our blood pressure? So if you will correlate these two, then you're doing a correlational research. If you're comparing the results, no, of your research, no, of your findings from one group to the other, then you're doing a comparative research. Okay? Right. So we may believe so that's the quantitative research designs that you can consider in your study or in your research, no? But also try considering them if your research question can be answered by qualitative designs, no? By qualitative designs. Later, I'll show some examples, no, of qualitative designs that may help resolve some health problems. It can be in the form of ethnography. When we say ethnography, a study of cultures, no? So you study the culture of your participants, no, and learn something more about their health, then you can do ethnography. Pwede rin phenomenology or the study of the lived experience, yung ibinuhay ng mga tao. So you can explore their health beliefs, their health practices, their health concerns by analyzing, no, their lived experiences. Another is yung tinatawag na grounded theory, no, wherein you try to unearth, no, the patterns of behaviors ng mga tao. Patterns of behaviors ng mga tao on a certain health topic na gusto mong aralin. Another is historical research, no, wherein you go back in time, analyze what happened in the past, and learn from it. And also an action research, a research that is intended to help, no, a certain group of people, a certain group of or a certain community in terms of their health. So here are examples of our qualitative research design. So this one is yung tinatawag na, I get this in research database, no, and I found out that there's this ethnography, no, on the way pharmacists do medication review, no. This one is in Ontario, Canada. Okay, so they try to expand the role of the community pharmacy. Okay, so they found out the key finding here is that ang sinasabi, the local structure ng community pharmacy practice, no, and the clinical aspirations of the pharmacist in the delivery of medication review is very important. Okay, by observing the way people live, the way people access the community pharmacy, and the way pharmacists view their roles, no, in the community. So that is ethnography. Okay? Inoobserbahan mo yung kultura ng grupo na gusto mong applyan ng research findings. Another is phenomenology. No? So this one is my publication. No? This one is published in February 2021. No, I researched about the educational experiences of adolescent mothers. Yung mga estudyanteng teenage pregnancy, mayroong or nakaranas ng teenage pregnancy habang sila ay nag-aaral ng college here in the Philippines. No, so sometimes kasi we try to neglect the needs of these people. So I try to study, no, the experiences of these people in terms of education. No, kasi minsan may mga eskwelahan na pinapatigil yung bata, no, kapag siya ay nabuntis, habang siya ay nag-aaral, no, tapos hindi na pinababalik, no. Which is I know in the Magna Carta for women, hindi to pwede yun, no? So, yan. So one of my the major finding that I discovered is that they face a number of complex issues. Kasi lumalaki sila na meron silang identity formation. So nagsabay yung pagiging adult nila, pagiging parent, pagiging estudyante, lahat yun nagsabay-sabay, no? And that bilang mga guro, kasi I did this for the purpose of helping these students. Bilang mga guro, malaki yung role namin para makapagtapos yung batang yun sa college, no? The correct term that was identified is that we're like crucible, no? Para kaming mga crucible na huhulma doon sa bata na inuulan ng pagsubok. Okay? So what's my key point here? No, doing phenomenology is a good way also to unearth, no, several several hidden desires or concerns ng mga tao when it comes to health, no? Something like that. Another qualitative research, malapit na po, tatlong slides na lang. So, grounded theory in health sciences, pwede naman po ito, no? Wherein you unearth, no, the performance or the behavior, which is the behavior performance of the residents, okay, when they demonstrate their efficacy, no, in drug administration, etc. And lastly, hindi pa pala, no, historical research in health science, no? One famous historical research is yung mga halamang gamot, no, in the colonial Philippines from 16th to 19th century. Okay, so it's a historical research that went back and discovered ano nga ba yung mga ginagamit ng mga traditional medicine during that time. And also, last but not the least, would be an action research. No? So I cited one. This is from my friend. No, this is a friend of mine in the PhD during my PhD studies. No, she was actually concerned with how do we educate, no, patients who are deaf, no, on the medication process. Okay, so the target community is yung deaf people and how they communicate, because we need to instruct them also when it comes to drug administration, pag-inom ng gamot. Okay, so one of the key findings here that touched me is that deaf people communicate with hearing, no, people in different ways. Kasi ang common connotation natin ay sign language, no, tuturo, no. Well, in fact, iba-iba. Okay, and they have preferred means, no, of communicating with us, no, in terms of their level of deafness, language skills, educational level, etc. Okay, ano ang implication for us health researchers? It provides us ways, no, to develop materials, develop researches that will benefit these deaf people in terms of medication. Yun na nga, the output of this research is a set of training materials, no, for effective medication instruction to the delivery to deaf and hard of hearing patients. No, so it's a guidebook and video. Okay. Right. So I think that's the last of my slide. And thank you very much for staying with me at this time. And I hope that that I have shared with you my experience properly and adequately. Thank you very much.